put the pod bean on. The pod bean's on. Is the mic on? Is everything on? All right, we're good. He's giving me the thumbs up, so I think we're good. So, special today, little Christmas special. I don't have a guest, so I thought it would be good if Rory, myself, and whoever's laying around the office did a little recap of some guests, a little recap of some of the things that have gone on this year so far, the last, 9-10 months, I guess, and maybe get a few people's thoughts and see what they think and kind of go from there. I think Rory's strolling in. He's setting up shop right next to me. Holy shit, I'm going to look thin. Here we go. Oh, yeah, buckle up. Showtime. You got to put the cans on. So Rory's going to chime in with his 2 cents on this year, the show, and everything else. And I have to admit, I'm a little curious to hear because we don't really talk about it.
No, not a whole lot.
So what do you think?
Of the show?
Well, not the show, but the guests and the stuff that have been. I don't want your critique of the show, you know?
This year the guests have been pretty phenomenal. We've had some awesome people, and they've came in and they've treated us all like family and shook hands and had some good laughs and ate some good barbecue and some donuts. It's been a lot of fun from the staff perspective for sure.
I'm taking a little selfie here, Rory, so bear with me. Keep talking. We're just having a
selfie moment in here.
Little fun in here.
Little fun.
So it has been exciting. There's no doubt. There's been a lot of really cool people in here. Who have some of the coolest been? What do you think?
Man.
Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head. My favorite was probably Mike, you know. Mike came in here and, just him looking at him and thinking he could be the next Baywatch superstar.
Yeah, Mike O'Hearn's an interesting one. He's a great one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mike was personality, loved him.
Yeah. He's a good one. There's a good one. Who else?
Casey Halstead was really good too. I liked Casey a lot and what he had to say and where he thought the industry was going as far as MMA and the UFC and training. And it was good to hear his stories about all the people he's worked with over the years and the people that still are trying to work with him and come to him to get trained. That was some valuable insight I think it brought to everything that's going on with the UFC today.
Who else? Keep going.
Man, it's going to be after that one, Crispy was a good one. I liked having Crispy on. He was a lot of fun. Definitely the footage from you guys going to the range strip that I missed out on looked like it was something that was not to be missed, especially with you shooting the unicorn gun. That's your favorite.
Well, there's just so much, and I'm trying to post this so everybody can go see it, but I'm a little I struggle with this a little bit sometimes, getting this stuff, the links up. But there's so many great guests, it's hard to say who's the best. I always like to say there's never a best.
I don't think there was a best one out of all of them.
I don't think there's a
They're
best.
all so good.
I will say it's amazing to have so many great folks in and so many cool folks, and when you have the opportunity to get Max Michel, Shane Cooley, Michelle Viscuzzi, you're able to get all this wide range of guests on. JJ, Mike O'Hearn, who you mentioned, Heath Evans, so many great people. And the idea of the podcast, and I know this is something that's been reiterated over and over and over again, is I like to get everybody from the defense community, everybody from the communities that we love that contribute to everything, because they all walk hand in hand. You got to take care of your body, you got to take care of your mind, you got to take care of your self-defense, combatives, everything. So you have to have a mix of people on to really build out an eclectic mix, a hodgepodge of people. And I think we've been fortunate that we've had something like 80 or 90 guests on, and just the mix has been such a great mix. Yeah, no.
That's a lot of people that we've had on it. It doesn't seem like that many, but we've been 2-3 guests a week for quite some time now.
So it's been a wild ride this year, getting all the folks on and just having so many great contributors, whether it's Monster, Mortal Coffee, Strike Force Energy, Quest, all these different brands that supported and participated, not only in getting guests on, but just sending product and being super liberal and caring in terms of getting us where we needed to be to do this. If I was to pick some segments that I really enjoyed, like Diana Mueller, obviously.
Oh, Diana was great.
She's amazing to have on, and she's going to be a regular. I mean, she'll be contributing ongoing. She's just one of those that's going to always be giving us updates from DC. Having the opportunity to have Kimberly Guilfoyle on to give us an update from the campaign, from the front lines. We keep doing our best to get as much information as we can. And being here in the KVAR studios, it's awesome to have as many people from our team contributing and helping get folks on as well, because you were instrumental in getting the Daily Shooter on, and getting some of those folks together. It's awesome to see everybody pull together in between you and Q and Marcy and everyone. It's great to have so much. But we have SHOT Show coming up now, so we can
not very far away.
We can reflect on the year a little bit more maybe next week. But we have SHOT Show coming up in the future, and we've been prepping for that, and that's exciting. But what are you looking forward to?
Oh, for the next couple months, I mean, I'm definitely anxious to see who else we're going to bring on the show. That's for sure. Everybody always brings something different to the table, as far as something that they can teach everybody else from what they're speaking about. You know, Diana brought some really good content about what we could be doing for some firearms education, stuff like that going forward, and how to move that back up to the forefront. I think looking forward, SHOT is coming up, and I'm interested to see what the industry is going to do this year. I mean, I think this year we've had a harder year than ever before as far as the industry is concerned, and all the laws and everything everybody's trying to do, and politics with it.
In Virginia.
Virginia's definitely something to be talked about, especially I seen a map this morning that showed all the growing counties of Second Amendment sanctuaries that are just occurring all over the nation now. It's just a big thing that's just spreading like wildfire. Because people are pretty much saying they've had enough. Like, we've had enough with, you trying to go after the guns and not doing anything about the people aspect of it. Because at the end of the day, the gun is just the tool.
I definitely want to address a couple things. I want to address some things I've seen in the industry kind of change, and some things I'm excited about that I saw over the past year and I see maybe coming. I do believe the industry is maturing. I know that's been something that I've been harping on and jonesing on for a really long time. I do believe we're seeing some maturity start to come out of some of the pockets. And I think it's just going to be a matter of weeding out some of these brands that popped up maybe in the last 10 years that really aren't in it for the long haul. They're not going to be here 5 and 10 years from now, and that's a shame, because they promote and push innovation. But the reality is they're not they're adding a lot of like how do I put it, like a drag to the industry too. And you have a lot of people, everybody dove into the instructor game, and everybody's trying to be this and everybody's trying to be that, and Instagram promotes that and proliferates it, so we see that. But the reality is this business functions best when it's streamlined and it's running on all cylinders and everybody has the proper messaging. There's been some messages I've seen out there over the last few weeks that definitely promoted a lot of thought-provoking. For me, I see everybody tends to worry about what everybody else is doing.
Way too much.
And I just wish across the board in the industry, people would focus on what they have going on, what they're doing, what's pushing their agenda forward, and worry less about what other companies, people, brands, promoters, Instagrammers, all this stuff are doing. I've said for a long time, and recently an article came out about the branding deal with Instagram and Facebook, that they were going to be cracking down on not just firearms, but tobacco and a bunch of other products. Now, that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to look at in the coming weeks. What I think they mean by that is branded content that's specifically tagged as branded content. I think that's where they're going to start, which not a lot of people do in our business, because how do you identify who's promoting branded content? So I think that's going to take a while, but it's a start. And I've told people for a really long time, this is a drum I've banged for a really long time, Rory, that the firearms business needs to mature. It needs to grow. And I'm always amazed at some of these companies, how big they are, and I talk to a lot of them, that they don't have built out their own marketing in terms of YouTube, in terms of getting out there into their own spaces with different types of reach and different ways of reaching people with marketing. And I have ideas. I'm not trying to give away the pudding of some of the ideas I have. So I'm kind of being careful what I say, because when I have these conversations in a consulting capacity, or in a capacity that I'm talking with a company, I can't give away all the soup. But I do think we're witnessing the beginning of the end of a lot of the social media promoters and things like that.
Yeah, the influencer thing, I think, is done.
Yeah.
I think all these companies are tired of people calling them up and saying, "Hey, I got 10,000, 5,000 followers. Give me some free product to throw on my stuff." But yeah, you wouldn't know, but you're probably the 50th person that day to
Yep.
send something off. I think the whole Instagram thing is just done. I know myself personally, I'm tired of seeing ads and stuff like that
Oh yeah.
for stuff that I don't even care about. But what I will, still stick to these days is YouTube. And the reason I'll stick to YouTube these days is because it's, you're going to get your ads on YouTube, whatnot, but it's original content that somebody produced, somebody made, and it's more interesting to sit there and watch a video for 10, 15 minutes and learn something new versus just seeing an Instagram post like, oh, hey, here I am shooting this new gun or whatever, or here's a gun by my Christmas tree, but you're just like, okay, well, that's cool. Everybody else did that too,
Part of the big problem is, and this will be something that we'll see, I think, in 2020 and beyond, is you have a large collection of marketing directors and people across the industry that really aren't in tune with what's going on out there and the changes that have been taking place, at least in social media and in a lot of the media spaces. I was very critical 4 or 5 years ago when I got into the business, because I used to say to companies, so let me get this straight. You have X 100,000 followers on Instagram. That's your largest platform to reach your consumers. Yet you pay the person the least to manage that in your building.
Oh, yeah.
I said that makes no sense to me whatsoever. So what we saw was a large crop of people come into the industry, from different backgrounds that really didn't have a background in social, and they got put in charge of these marketing departments, and they really didn't understand fully what they were doing and how to shape that narrative. And we're witnessing a lot of that purging kind of take place. And now we're seeing these different platforms pop up like TikTok in different areas. And I think people have to have a plan. And it's one of the things I've said to a lot of different brands out there. You have to have a plan. So it's exciting to see kind of that changeover, because I could tell you all right now, if I took and put the resumes up of the 6 or 10 largest companies out there, of their, whether it's marketing director or CMOs or chief communications officers, it would be laughable in terms of the background that they have, whether it's in firearms or in marketing. It's pretty comical. They're very out of touch with what's going on out there and who's out there and how to do it. And a lot of them attempted to buy their way into the marketplace over time. That's all going to change, because you have to have some type of marketing initiative, because it's getting harder and harder to play the game. And a lot of people throw words around like viral, and they throw words around like campaigns, and they throw a lot of different things around. So we're going to witness that change, I feel.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be exciting to see some of these brands in the I've said it for a long time, soft goods market. I'm excited to see, obviously, what SIG brings to the table. I'm excited to see what we do, but I'm not going to get into that because we're still under wraps.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm excited to see what a lot of different brands out there are bringing to the table, because I think innovation is going to come back in, and it's going to breed competitiveness, and that's what's going to cause a lot of people to think out of the box and do some creative stuff.
Yeah, innovation is key to everything in almost every industry. I mean, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and again, and you keep expecting the same results, I mean, that's pretty much the definition of crazy, right? And I think so many companies haven't gotten it through their heads that people are buying things differently. They're researching products differently these days. Let's go back, 10 years maybe, right? 10 years, if we were looking at buying something, like a car or something like that, more than likely we'd probably pick up a magazine. And 10 years ago, yeah, there would have probably been some internet articles here and there, but not a whole lot of video. Now, if you go online and you search for that specific like make, model car, on YouTube that you're looking at, boom, you're going to get some results right off the top of your bat. That's going to show you just, several different reviews, and it's going to give you all kinds of information. Somebody's actually going to drive it. Consumers are just consuming differently these days. And not to mention with online, I mean, versus brick and mortar, if somebody can find something online for $50 cheaper and only have to wait 2 days to get it, they're going to do it. Versus walking into a brick and mortar, having to park the car, having to deal with that stuff. And I think the marketing behind all that is to get ahead of that, to be able to anticipate what your consumers want and how to drive sales to your business is going to be super crucial in the next couple months, more than ever before.
Of course. Of course, there's no question, and it's going to be an exciting time. It's going to be an exciting shot show. It's going to be an exciting time for a lot of businesses and a lot of companies to continue to kind of forge the path forward. Last year's shot show was very slow, and I thought it was an off year both at NRA and shot, and we witnessed what I felt was the beginning of some of the purgings we've been talking about for a really long time across the industry. And I think that trend will continue. And I think with 4 more years of Trump, I think we're going to witness a trend that's, gonna put us in a position where I think some of the fat will be bled off the industry.
Not a bad way to put it.
Yeah, and I think that you'll have good companies producing quality products out there, and you'll have innovation start to come back in because that's what has to happen, and you'll see less gimmicky stuff. And we've seen
gimmicks out there.
we've seen a lot of gimmicky stuff come in the last couple of years because people are just trying to grab market share. So you see a lot of companies come up with a gimmick product or something that is just another widget that goes on the shelf. If we see one more hand stop or one more company try to reinvent the wheel or do the same thing, it's just kind of foolish. What we want to see is kind of tried and true innovation, new exciting calibers, new exciting platforms, new ways of doing. Obviously, everybody's getting in the bolt action game.
Yep.
New exciting ways of doing bolt action. I think SIG's going to knock the cover off it with that bolt action. I think they're going to crush it.
I really liked looking at that this morning when we were having a conversation about it. I definitely dig it, and I'm definitely looking forward to
$1,800.
getting my hands on it in person and see what it's all about and get some more detailed specs out of it. I know they released some stuff that we've seen on the website, but find out what kind of trigger they're going to put in it, if it's going to be adjustable, not adjustable, kind of barrel they're going to go with, all those little special things that go along the line. But so far, taking a look at it today, the chassis looked like it was really nice. The rail system looked really nice. I'm excited to see what it's going to bring, but, along that same aspect, with innovation, it's like you can only do a bolt action gun so many times a certain way with the same stock on it before everybody's like, okay, we've had that for the last 20, 30 years. Like, give me something new that does something different. So, I think the biggest, change I've seen to bolt action rifles in probably the last 10 years is, the ability to get some detachable magazines now. Before it was like, you really couldn't get that unless you really went all out and bought the full stock and all that kind of stuff. Now it's a standard. Pretty much almost every bolt gun that's a PRS gun is, that thing's coming with a magazine release and 10-round magazine in it.
And I think, seeing companies, one of the things people don't realize is the gun is always designed around the feeding system. So what I'd like to see is companies take some chances and design some new and exciting feeding systems to support some of the calibers out there that I think would do very well in some of these platforms.
Yeah.
I get that you can't always reinvent the platform wheel, right? But we saw this a little bit with the Valkyrie. Yep. A lot of people got high on the Valkyrie, and I know a lot of companies out there like Clint Hansen at Ballistic Advantage and a lot of different brands really pushed the Valkyrie. And part of the problem with that was I think the ammo manufacturers really weren't ready to make a full commitment into the caliber, and that was part of the issue. But I think there are some great calibers out there. Like, I still love seeing what people are trying to do in the 10mm PCC game. I still love seeing what some people are trying to do in some of these different platforms, long-range platforms, and what SIG will be doing with their calibers and with their caliber breakdown. So I think there's a lot of room there. I think we haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg with the 6.5 Creedmoor. I think we can still do more with that. I think there's a lot of different stuff out there that could come out that could be really exciting, could be really fun, and could push the boundaries of what can and can't be done both in the pistol platform and both in the rifle platform, particularly in the long-range bolt-action game.
Yeah. So I bought into the whole 224 Valkyrie thing. I'm not going to lie. I did a ton of research on it, thought it looked pretty good, and I went to the store and got all the stuff and did, in fact, put a Ballistic Advantage 22-inch barrel on mine, which shoots really, really straight. But the problem I had with it was, I like to reload. So it's like going to the store and trying to find some 224 dies at, one of the major big box stores here in town is like almost impossible. Getting them online, they were kind of scarce. But eventually, they started coming out more and more, and you started being able to get ammo for it again. The only thing I'm worried about is we're going to get, over flooded with all kinds of different calibers, that it's just going to be so much that it's just going to be, hard to find certain calibers and get certain types of ammunition. But you always have those tried and true calibers like the 6.5 Creedmoor that pretty much aren't going anywhere. But I hear it all the time. Oh, this new caliber this and this new caliber that. Most recently, a couple months ago, I heard about the 350 Legend. and everybody was talking about how awesome it was going to be, and they got the ammo in the stores before they even had the guns in the store.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, who's going to buy the ammo for it if you don't even have a gun in the store or a barrel or anything to build that gun?
I love seeing some of the resurgences in calibers. Like in the last few years, the 10 millimeter has been one of them, especially in the pistol platform. We see more and more people want to get into that 10 millimeter game, and I feel like people have been trying to get a 10 millimeter PCC off the ground for the longest time. And I feel like we're on the cusp of that. I feel like that's coming. That's gonna happen. I also love seeing what people are doing, particularly in some of the DIY products, the do-it-yourselfers, the P80s, some of the different frames and different things. So there's a lot to be excited about that is coming down the pike, and we're gonna see this year at SHOT Show. I know some of the particulars of what people are coming out with, and I know some of the particulars of what we'll be doing. And there's gonna be a lot of fun, exciting stuff out there. So I think there's a lot of room for expansion, a lot of room for growth. I think a lot of people can still kind of understand that the industry is moving forward, and there is going to be a lot of fun, exciting stuff out there. But it's not going to all fix itself at once and be this supernova of really cool products. But I love seeing, like I said, a SIG getting back into that game, seeing some of the stuff that FN's doing, seeing some of the stuff that Springfield has done with the Hellcat project. I know it's a little bit of a clone of the P365 and some of the things that they're doing over there, but it's nice to see some of these different calibers and some of these different things in whether it's double stack or single stack or pistol capacity, push the envelope to make other companies be more creative and be more exciting and do more fun stuff. And I think there's a lot of room for that. Do I think they're reinventing the wheel just yet? No, but I think that there's some fun stuff coming down the pike.
I mean, yeah, the overall general design of a rifle hasn't changed that many years. Same thing with the handgun. That overall general design, we'll call it the wheel, hasn't changed. But there's always ways to improve the wheel. So if you start, little tweaks here and there to improve the wheel to differentiate yourself versus other manufacturers, then your product more than likely, if it performs like it should, and that innovation that you did is something that everybody just says, oh my God, that's just awesome, your product's going to be a hit and it's going to last. But you can only ride that wave for so long before you got to do something else.
Well, we've said it 100 times. Bullet technology improves faster than gun technology. So what you have is a situation where bullet technology is going to improve quicker. And part of that is because of the refinement of powders, primers, things like that, casings, and how they're remanufactured, whether it's through reman or just the process to which that they're brought to market. Now, with all that being said, that's going to allow for a better understanding of both ballistics and getting a better understanding of how and what we can do to push these platforms to do more, especially if we have cleaner, better running ammunition. So I'm really jazzed on one company and what they're doing right now. So if we take us out of the equation, one of the companies I'm really excited to see and what they're bringing to the market, because I know all the other products they're bringing out, is going to be Henry Rifles. As crazy as I'm a diehard Henry guy. I'm a diehard lever action guy. Everybody knows I love lever action. So I'm really excited. They announced they had a 410 shotgun. I mean, this thing's amazing looking. It's like a mare's leg, only it's like almost like a pirate gun. It's just amazing to see what they're doing and still kind of getting everyone's attention in a space where you would never believe you could get anyone's attention.
Right. And you really turned me on to the Henrys because I'd really never had a whole lot of experience with them. And we were talking about them one day, and then the next day I went to the gun shop and held one in my hand and actually looked at it and the quality of it. So obviously, first off, it's made in America, obviously. But then when you actually look at the materials of the wood that they actually use and the stains and the quality of it and how smooth everything is, and you could tell the materials that they used, not only did it look good, but you could tell the materials behind it were actually like super high quality materials. And you just look at the finish and the polish on it, and you're just kind of in awe.
If you can shoot a lever action, you can shoot anything.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel. And I've said that to multiple pro shooters. I had a shooting instructor 1,000 years ago that said that to me, and he was 100% right. Just the way you have to rechamber and how you have to cycle that weapon and the ability to get the target acquisition, it forces you to do a lot of things every time, and it's not exactly the easiest thing to operate. So once you get that down cold, you'll almost be able to shoot anything else and acquire a good sight picture and be able to focus on the target in front of you.
Yeah, everybody wants to be an operator these days, but not everybody wants to train to be an operator.
Cowboy action.
Yeah, cowboy action.
So I'm excited to see what they do and how they roll these out, because I know that they have 3 or 4 other SKUs that are going to be following this SKU, and I think people, would be excited to see kind of what they do and how they do it. There's so much. I mean, there's just so many things. I say it all the time, the soft goods market, the bag market, that market's an exciting one. But coming back, we talked about SHOT Show, we talked about 2020, coming back to this past year and kind of closing out the year, and I know we have plenty of time to do maybe a closeout episode. I have to say, Roy, it's been awesome not only having you help out and having you participate,
Thanks, man.
but I think it's been a lot of fun just having a lot of the different people from sides of the business that so many people participate in. And when I started this project, a lot of people were like, what are you doing? You're having like, a fitness guy in, a diet guy in, an MMA guy. What does that have to do with anything? I go, well, let me ask you a question. Do you practice self-defense when you shoot a gun?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So do you practice self-defense when you train martial arts?
Yep.
Okay. Do you practice self-defense when you take care of your body and you diet and everything that goes along with that, and you train?
Yep.
Yep. So
100%.
I look at, and just so everybody knows that I'm not just swinging from the hip, I look at what everybody's doing, whether it's on the job in law enforcement, whether it's in the military, whether it's in life, and how people train. And one of the, some of the guests that kind of brought all of that thinking together were guys like Tony Blauer that came in here, or guys like that take a pride in managing fear, and then the tool, whatever the tool is, whether it's your hands, a gun, a knife, whatever it is, the tool becomes almost like a secondary thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to first give you the mindset and give you the body and the will. The tool will be the afterthought.
Yeah.
So, if a lot of people were thinking, what's the thought process behind this? The thought process is to humanize a lot of the people behind a lot of the different genres that we look to develop and get better at our craft. You will not have to go far to find somebody who shoots, who trains in some form of MMA. You will not have to go far to find someone who trains in MMA who enjoys shooting. You're not going to have to go far to find somebody who lifts weights in either of those genres. They all walk hand in hand, and if they don't, they wish that they did. So there's something for everybody there, but what people have to get over is they have to get over the fact that the days of just being like, you know what, I'm just going to go buy a gun and I'm done, and I'm going to do no training, not going to go to the range, not going to practice, I'm not going to do anything. Those are over. You can't get away with that on any level.
No, and I mean, especially now more than ever, you got to have the education behind it to understand everything that's going on in the industry, as well as what's going on in your state with the laws and everything like that concerns it, because you and yourself have to be somebody who can go out there and spread the right information and not misinformation. Social media does a good enough job as it is these days spreading misinformation, and at that point, you got to be able to be educated enough to speak about, anything on that subject matter for sure.
And there's been a few rants about that, and we can debate all day for a whole separate episode on social media and what people put out there, and training scars like we talked about with Pat McNamara. And I look at somebody like Pat as one of those guys that brings it all together, like a Tony Blauer. I look at somebody like Tony Sentmanat of Real World Tactical as somebody who brings all those different genres together. I look at all these different people like Jiu-Jitsu Cop that's been on, that brings all those different genres together. You have to understand that there's so many great folks out there practicing so many different self-defense arts, whether it's all of those things or none of those things or one of those things, but they have an interest in all of those things and they want to get better. And I think as time evolves and you see a lot of these things trickle down to the academies, whether it's the jiu-jitsu or the Krav Maga or some of the different things that travel down to the training academies in military, in the shooting kind of bubble up into a lot of those different things, it's really important for people to understand one of the missions of here and what we're trying to accomplish is bring you guys the knowledge.
Yep.
And bring the knowledge out there and get people to understand. We're not trying to be closed-minded and just say, you know what, we're just going to have a shooter on, or we're just going to have this on, or we're just going to have that on. And I had somebody say to me once, an executive, oh, you got to have, you really got to have real operators on. Okay. So if we put every real operator on, does that give people a snapshot into what exactly goes into being an operator?
Not at all. I mean, I'll give you my take on it, and the diversity we have here on the show. My take on it is you can only have so many operators on. You can only talk about so many things with that operator or the operators that you have on, and to where it's like, oh, great, this week you got another operator on. It's not diversified enough to keep my interest. So we try to pique everybody's interest, I think at least, by bringing different people on, because they all bring something different to the table. Like, Bruce, for example, Bruce Cardenas came on from Quest, and we talked about all kinds of stuff that day. But, Bruce brings a totally different perspective of things that I learned about from him that day when it came to marketing and the way it's going these days and how he's doing so well and how he's so successful with what they're doing with marketing. But then, you can talk to the next guy, like Casey Halstead, and you can talk about, jiu-jitsu with him and talk about what he's doing with his training and stuff like that. It's very, very diversified, all wrapped around the personal defense spectrum. And we don't discriminate on any of that stuff. It'd get boring after a while. If you're just doing the same thing over and over again, then we ourselves are sitting here preaching about innovation, but we're not doing it. So
yeah, and I think it speaks to where the industry needs to go. It needs to be more progressive. We need to look at all these different genres. And I've said for a really long time, when people used to be critical of me about weightlifters and bodybuilding, I'd said every one of those guys is a customer and they love to shoot.
Yep.
Should we alienate them? Are we supposed to run them out of town? Or I thought our goal was to put more guns in people's hands and sell more guns. I thought that was the goal.
It's always the goal.
That is that not the goal to spread this? So my thing is always to get as many people from different genres that appeal to these genres and get them exposed to not only what we're doing here in this podcast, but in these, and get them maybe to listen to 2 or 3 or 4 episodes and understand what it is we're trying to do. But it goes without saying that you're going to always have these closed-minded folks that want to do it their way, and that's great. I'm always all for that. If you want to do a Navy SEAL Buds podcast, go. There's plenty of them out there. You want to go listen to, a special operations pod, go listen to one. There's a lot of good ones out there. But if you want to listen to something that's going to expose you to all the different slices of the pie and give you some insight into all the different slices of the pie and their journey and how they got here and how they persevered and how they excelled. And particularly one of the ones that's on the bubble is like action sports. So we had Bree Mahone in here, who was a monster truck driver. She works in an area that requires an insane amount of discipline because your adrenaline's always pumping and going a million miles an hour. I mean, she drives a monster truck, okay, at high speeds, jumping off ramps, flipping, all that stuff. That requires an insane amount of control over your adrenaline.
Total
and over
skill right there.
Yep, and that's interesting to hear her journey and hear how she got to that point and how she got into that sport and how she overcame the fear, which is the theme of that, and how she got into that area of her life and enjoys it and actually is willing to get in a car, put a seatbelt on, knowing she's going to crash it and knowing she's going to flip. So that's always exciting to me. And I look at different things, from different sports. Like we just had Valentine Thomas on.
Yeah,
Valentine
was awesome.
Yeah, now she comes from fishing and hunting in an area that involves her swimming with sharks and overcoming a certain amount of fear. Now we know that that's in that hunting and fishing genre, so it's very close to us, very near and dear to us. She does spear fishing, but that's also an area we love to explore and we love to see, how she overcomes and tackles those fears and gets into a space like that, an alternative lifestyle, and begins to swim with these sharks in open water, with no cage, nothing.
No steel mesh.
Nope, nothing. And just free swims and free dives with them. I mean, that is amazing, amazing stuff. And it's a lot of fun. And I don't pick these people out of a hat. I look at them and I see what they're doing out there and how exciting it is. You could have any fisherwoman or fisherman on, but I wanted to have somebody that was really taking it to an extreme and not only, talking the talk, walking the walk.
Oh, yeah, and she's definitely that person that talks the talk and walks the walk, and just the way she flipped her lifestyle from, I'm an attorney, and then the next day it's like you could tell she just wasn't happy with that lifestyle, and she started spearfishing and whatnot, and then boom, she's like, this is what I want to do with my life, and she just went and did it. And watching the videos of her in the ocean, she just looks like a mermaid in there, in her natural environment, and talking to her, we brought up some really good points with her, and and watching the videos of her out in the Keys and stuff, just spearfishing fresh lobster for dinner and stuff. It was really inspiring, I think, too. I think a lot of these people we've had on have definitely been inspirations in their own right for a lot of things.
Oh yeah, it gets you motivated. And I look at, like you brought up Mike O'Hearn, somebody who's 50 plus years old, who still keeps himself in tip-top condition and trains as if he's 22.
Mike's 50?
And outlifts, out-trains, outperforms so many people, and he's been doing it for such a long time. And when I tell you the guy is insanely disciplined, it's an understatement. So getting a little insight into his discipline, his routine, and what he does. And let me tell you, he is a highly sought-after speaker on the topic. And another one that comes to mind in a similar, ilk is Stan Efferding. Stan Efferding is another one who he has the whole diet in the, how your body breaks down food and how your body can still perform well into a late age. It's amazing to hear the guy talk, and there's a reason he's so sought after, his information so sought after. I can tell you all this who's listening. Stan Efferding's podcast and Stan Efferding's YouTube and the stuff that he does are some of the most downloaded episodes we've ever had. Yep. And he does a fantastic job giving information. And a lot of it will go over a lot of people's heads. But, I mean, man alive, if you want to hear a podcast that gives you so much insight into what goes into a diet and building a diet lifestyle, go listen to that episode and it'll blow your mind.
Yeah, Stan was awesome, not only on the show, but in person as well. And we got to hang out with him for a little bit and learn from him and all about his vertical diet and what he's trying to preach with that kind of stuff. It's something I'm definitely going to probably try myself here one of these days. But
when we stop eating the donuts.
When we stop eating donuts and barbecue and all that good stuff. But, it goes back to, part of what we're doing with the podcast is we're spreading out some good information. People can learn from some of the things that we're talking about, especially they can definitely learn from every guest we brought on the show one way, shape, or another. There's something to be learned from each and every single one of them.
Yeah, there's just so much, and how to sum it up and ever pick one, we can't. But going forward, I'm excited to see what we have and how it all shakes out going forward. But we have so many potential good guests down the pike. We're in talks right now. I know the former WWE wrestler Ryback will probably be coming on. I'm trying to get Jake Shields on, who was a wrestler and is a jiu-jitsu MMA fighter. Jake's going to eventually probably be on. Kat Zingano's another one. I would love to get another female perspective of fighters. And we've had so many great female fighters on we haven't talked about. I definitely can't look forward to Lena Michalik. She's another one. Yeah. Potentially getting Jerry or Kay on. Michalik would be exciting. Daniel Horner, who shoots for SIG, would be another one. I'd love to get the director of SWAT training for SIG, Todd Moriarty, on.
Todd's a good one. Yeah.
There would be there's so many that offer so much, and just not just in the combatives and shooting space, but I'm still looking at some of the other areas, and I'm interested to see what people want and what other areas people want to see. What do you think?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what everybody else wants to see out there, but I definitely think that lineup of guests just to start 2020 off would be pretty awesome. But I think keep bringing those people to the table that that we're going to have something valuable to put out there to the world. And something that everybody can learn from is definitely, people that we want to have on the show. The only kicker is, when we get some of these female MMA fighters in here, we're all worried that they're going to kick our ass.
Yeah, they
See
will.
The muscles on them girls. Wow.
Yeah, they will. I mean, we had so many great ones. We didn't even bring them up. We had Jessica I. We had Gina Mazzani. We had Jessie Jess. There was so many great female fighters, and there's still a lot of great male fighters too. I'd love to have on and down the line and explore. So I'm excited to see what 2020 brings. And of course, as we wind down, this year, it's nice to do an episode like this and kind of recap and get some insight from you guys and from everybody out there on what they want to see and where this goes and how we shape it out in the next 6, 8 months, 12 months. It'll be exciting for sure. And I have a few big ones scheduled on the around SHOT Show to get more into some of the folks from the gun industry and some of the folks from the shooting world and tactical world. And I think we're never going to neglect that space. We're going to always water that space. It's just going to come down to having a mix of people on and getting a lot of different personalities.
Yeah, definitely. One person I'm trying to get lined up for us now is somebody who's definitely a hot guy in the executive protection industry. And he's somebody I'm looking forward to getting on, because that's somebody definitely that could spread some good education and knowledge out there for people who are interested in that type of segment and market, or even learn something about maybe some personal defense for themselves. But this year, I think we'll be continuing to be active just to find that diverse guest list to keep everything interesting and always fresh.
So somebody said Don Jr., somebody said Alexa Bliss, and somebody said Chuck Norris. Don Jr. will definitely, yeah, Chuck Norris is a funny one. We'll definitely get Don Jr. at some point. I want to get Don in studio, which is going to be a bit of a trick. So that's a lot of that stuff, guys, is dependent on scheduling. So getting around people's schedule. Alexa Bliss, I mean, all those people would be great. I think some of those people from that WWE genre offer something, especially into the training and what their body goes through and the beating that they take, in the ring and traveling, which is something we can all relate to, which I'm really curious about how they deal with that and kind of how they persevere through that. But make no mistake, and Daryl brings this up in one of his questions, understanding there's always something to take away from their journey, and understand in their journey that you can apply to anything else that you do. So whether it's, hearing Max Michel, some of the best part of his story is hearing him talk about how he overcame Katrina and where his life went with pro shooting and how SIG kind of happened and that whole story came about. So a lot of those different areas, it's really telling when you hear those stories of how they overcame and how they became the people they are today.
Yeah, those are definitely some inspirational stories that we've heard at this table over the last, 6, 8, 9 months that we've been doing this, however long it's been in this building. We've just heard some incredible stories. Suresh had a really good story about where he's been and where he's going now, and it's going to be interesting to see how everybody shakes out in the next year after SHOT this year, and where everything plays out within the country and the politics and everything else going on. But we don't like to dive into that too much. But
no. I mean, the politics thing. I mean, like we said, we've brought up some of it with Virginia, but I think the politics stuff is going to take care of itself. I mean, I don't think you have to go far to find, people what they think about the impeachment, things like that. But the politics stuff kind of takes care of itself, and it's hard to chase that from a podcasting standpoint. To a lot of you folks out there, it's not that we don't have a desire to be political with the guests. It's just that when you report on that stuff or you comment on it, it's already old news in 2 hours because it's changing so fast. So it's very hard to keep up with that and make that a topic of conversation and make that something that you dive into. I can give you my thoughts on the impeachment at length, and so can all of us in the building. But our theory is going to be an old theory in an hour. So
pretty much,
it's a hard thing to comment on, and I try to explain that to a lot of folks that there's just kind of too much dead air there. But it's exciting. It's going to be an exciting year. I know Jeremy was lurking out there. Is there any way we can corral him?
I don't know. Is he still lurking?
See if you can.
I'm going to see if I can corral him. I'd be interested to see what he's
looking
forward to at SHOT and stuff like that. Let me go see if I can dig him up.
You got to take your cans off.
I know.
So while Rory's doing that, I want to take a minute and I want to, again, thank a few of the sponsors, thank a few of the people that made this happen, especially Rory here, who popped in for 45 minutes to give his insight. But I want to thank all the guests, too. We've had so many great guests, so many cool people in, and I couldn't have done it all without the help of everybody here and everybody on the team and everybody who's helped make all of this possible. So to every guest that comes in, to everybody that offers to say, hey, we'll send some product down, that's insanely helpful. And it helps when all you guys out there not only subscribe to the podcast and like the podcast, but also leave reviews and comment and thank the sponsors. And I know a lot of you guys out there that are listening and popping in and out have done that. It's super helpful when you do. And I can't thank a lot of the different brands enough, whether it's Built, Monster, Immortal Coffee, Quest, Pink Box, Donuts, all the different brands out there, Tops Knives, that have helped and contributed in some way, shape, or form, Action Targets. It's been super helpful to have all you guys kind of band together and just kind of say, what do you need? What do you need to help you? What do you need to make this happen? So I think we'll get Jeremy in here, and we'll get Jeremy to
we wrangled him out of his cave.
We wrangled him out of his cave. Let's see if we can get Jeremy's 15 minutes on what he expects out of SHOT Show. We have the ultimate industry fanboy here.
SHOT Show.
The ultimate industry fanboy here. the one and only Mr. Customer Service himself, Jeremy.
How's it going, everybody?
So give us some insight into what you have thought about all the guests coming on and everybody that's been through, and what are you looking forward to at SHOT Show in 2020?
Oh, well, SHOT Show, I'm really interested to see all the new stuff that's coming out. I know there's been a lot of new technology, laser aiming devices, thermal imaging stuff, sights. You know, that's some new guns that are coming out that I've heard of through the grapevines in the industry, and we'll definitely see. It plans to be interesting for 2020.
He's being coy, but what he really is looking forward to is a lot of the companies that are out there that are going into spaces that we didn't expect them to get into. We were looking today, we brought it up earlier, the SIG platform. We were looking at some of the different things, but I'm excited to see, you know, how many chances people take on calibers this year particularly, and that's something Rory and I were talking about. So it'll be fun. I think it was SIG's doing one in the Fury round, which will be exciting. So there's so much fun stuff that I think we have to look forward to, and I think a lot of the fat coming out of the industry is gonna breed a lot of that excitement. We were talking about that earlier. But as far as the show goes, who's been your favorite guest and who and why?
Oh, well, unfortunately, I spend most of my time behind my computer taking care of my guys, so I haven't had a chance to really tune in for a whole lot of it. You know, it was really interesting seeing Max Michel come in. You know, it's been interesting seeing some of the other people from other industries come in.
Max is great.
You know, unfortunately, I did not catch the Pat Mack one, but I've been meaning to tune into that. I'd love to hear what he had to say and what you guys talked about during that, because I follow a lot of his stuff. Other than that, though, you know, unfortunately, it's...
You were excited to see Rob Bailey.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to really watch that one. I don't watch a whole lot of YouTube anymore, so I don't really hop on and watch them as often as I should.
Well, we're available everywhere podcasts are heard, Jeremy.
Oh, that's
but,
right.
But
right.
it's funny you bring up, you brought up Rob. Rob had a couple really cool stories about, what was it, Rory? It was something about a puma attacking Dana or something in the woods.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He had it was like a mountain lion or something attacking. So we've had so many cool stories from people about how they've had to apply, you know, firearms or use firearms or practice self-defense. So we've had a lot of really cool stories. I would say that was definitely a guest. I remember you saying to me you definitely wanted to meet him, and he's a super cool cat to spend some time with. And there's a reason he moved to Montana, because he gets to buy anything he wants and have anything he wants.
Right,
so,
the free.
You know, he's a super awesome supporter, and he's one of those guys that's not outspoken about it, but he's a super awesome supporter. You know, who do you want to see in 2020? Who are you jonesing on that you'd like to see come in?
Ooh, you know, especially given a lot of the people that are located here in town, you know, and everyone that's going to be coming into town for the show, which really gives us kind of an edge. You know, there's a lot of really good people I'd like to see on here, a lot of really big names. You know, it'd be awesome. I'd love to sit down and see what Travis has got to say, Travis Haley with Haley Strategic. You know, if we could get Fuller in here, of course, Fuller is going to have all sorts of interesting content to provide.
He's always doing something.
Yeah, and he's becoming more and more active and stuff like this. So, you know, there's a lot of different people out there that we might be able to get our hands on that would be really interesting.
Travis is doable. It's a scheduling thing with him.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, Jim would be a fantastic guest. I've said it a number of times, but I think Jim's realizing his place in history and his place in the game, and he's starting to come into his own in terms of realizing that. And realizing that he's got to put that story out there, and no one's going to do it for him. So I'm excited to see what the year brings for him. But I think you're right. Over the last 6-8 months, he's kind of turned that corner to where he's doing more. It's kind of like an Ernie Emerson thing. Forever you didn't see much of Ernie. Now he's starting to realize his place in the universe and put himself out there and understand, you know, what he means to the community.
Well, I think, you know, another thing is of course, certain people have had a strong grip in the industry, respectable titles, respectable history, you know, but as far as getting more and more active in the social media aspect of things, you know, people are starting to wake up towards it more. You know, you're starting to see some of these names that you'd only heard about, you know, them being in their craft, actually putting themselves out there and allowing themselves to be more accessible by people who aren't able to go take a builder's class or, you know, go take a class with one of these instructors, but they're able to see more and more media from them and pick up a lot of that interaction.
See, I love and I get excited when I get like the Hannah Bilodeau's on, you know, Rory, like the people
cool.
The people behind the scenes, like Hannah being the role that she plays at SIG as director of training, and some of these people that you don't hear a lot about, you don't see a lot out there at the forefront, but they're there and they have such prominent roles in the industry, but we don't get the opportunity really to hear their story. But through platforms like this, we can give them a voice.
Right, and I think a lot of those people, they're at least for the most part busy doing what they do. That's what makes them great at their craft, right? You know, if they were doing everything on the spectrum, then naturally their one thing that they excel at that they're known for would be less, or it'd be more watered down because they're occupied with other things. And since they've been able to build their craft and build their notoriety, now more and more people want to see more from them. They want to interact with them more, and that allows, you know, things like this to really thrive, and us being able to put those people out there, or
Really
this podcast for
Yeah, it really
example.
gives them a good voice to bring something to the table to share with the rest of us, for us to learn from them, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it comes back to the cutting the pie, Jeremy. Rory and I were talking about this. The pie of self-defense encompasses a lot of things, and you can't ever just pick one genre. Like if you want to shoot the best, you're going to go see a Max or a JJ or a Shane,
Right.
and you're going to learn to shoot. If you want to
JJ.
learn self-defense, you know, in combatives, you're going to go see a Casey Halstead. You're going to go see an Eddie B. You're going to go see some of these coaches in the MMA and jiu-jitsu community. If you want to learn knife combatives, you're going to go see Ernie Emerson, or you're going to go see Ronin Tactics. You're going to go see some of these guys. You know, if you want to learn shooting tactics, you're going to go see a Tony Sentmanat. You're going to go see some of these different people.
Well, it's
And
all specialties. You know,
it's
these
all
people have
specialties.
their
They're all
field.
They're all SMEs. Every single one of those guys. What's funny is people around the industry sometimes will talk and they'll say they don't necessarily agree with, you know, you got to have only real operators on, and it's got to be real. And we were talking about this earlier, and the thing I come back to, you know, and I like bringing it up because people need to understand all these people train in these different genres. And it's funny because everybody takes pride in developing out their different skill sets. And it's fun having these guests on because you get some insight into what goes into that particular kind of training, whether it's weight training, diet, MMA, shooting, all these different areas. So it's fun, and it kind of takes it home when you have a Pat McNamara on, or you have a Tony Blauer on, and you have some of these people on that kind of bring all those genres together. And I brought up like having you know, Bree Mahone on, who was the monster truck driver. It's nice having her on. She's in an adrenaline business, so she has to manage adrenaline and fear. And she rides around in a truck that goes a gazillion miles an hour, goes off jumps, goes off all these things.
Has to keep her shit
and
together.
she has to keep her shit
Yeah.
together. So we all can relate to an aspect of that, you
Right.
know? And that's something in action sports that we take for granted. Like I'd love to have, you know, and Valentine Thomas is a little bit of that genre where she swims with the sharks and fishes and hunts. I'd love to have on someone who does like, you know, like free, what is it, like when they jump and like they,
Oh, the
Free diving?
not free diving,
jumping.
base jumping. There you go.
Oh, base jumper would be great to have on.
Yeah, like
Not
you know,
me, man. I don't
somebody
do
like that.
heights.
But you can't. I mean, you're a guy who's been around the business. You've worked in several capacities. People need to realize you can't just have every person be a shooter.
Oh, right, right.
It just
And
can't.
you also have to realize that you have to be more than just a shooter. You know, there's a lot of different places to get different information. You know, you can't expect to go take one class from one instructor and, okay, great, I can blow holes in paper targets all day long, but can you do any medical? Do you know anything about communications? Do you know anything about the entire multitude of human skills that are required in everyday life? You know, and especially when shit gets real. You know, it's really easy to say, oh, I carry my firearm and I can, you know, kill a paper plate because I took my CCW course. It's another to be able to keep your shit together and manage adrenaline, for example. There's a lot of different aspects of everything that has to be tied all together to make a cohesive system. And that's
And it's funny when you see guys who do bring it together, like we mentioned Tony Blauer and we mentioned, you know, Pat McNamara and Tony Sentmanat. But then when you meet guys who are behind some of the businesses, like Sean Matson, who owns Strike Force Energy, former SEAL, he's in the energy drink business, and he makes gear at Matblock. So it's nice to see guys who meld all those different genres
Right.
and make them their own through their businesses as well. And in a way, you see that with Bruce Cardenas with Quest. You know, 14 years, I believe it was LAPD, Marine Corps, NRA, and now, you know, he ended up by chance, you know, being a huge part of the Quest bar and nutrition space. So it's exciting to see. You know, it was funny because never did I take more heat than when I had Bruce on my first podcast, and everybody was like, "Oh, just another nutrition guy," and I was like, "Actually, You know, he ran one of the largest executive protection companies and was 14 years LAPD and was a Marine. Oh, you know, you hear crickets.
Little bit diversified there.
And it's a little bit with the, you know, Chris Cavallini was a little bit the same way. He was a Navy diver. He happened to get into nutrition solutions, you know. So you kind of hear these people's journeys, and it's exciting to hear, you know, what they got into and how they got there and what shapes them.
Well, almost to kind of circle back to what you said about, you know, I only want to take a course from someone that's seen combat or something along those lines. I mean, let's face it. It's like you were saying about the adrenaline management. You know, that's probably the one thing that they can provide that other people can't, is they may have had that oh shit moment where they had to keep their shit together, but they can't teach you that. They can teach you little tips and tricks that may help you with that, but they can't put you in that situation.
It's
you know,
very
so
hard to articulate.
Really, you have to look at all the different skills that you have to learn, you know, in making things, muscle memory, building habits, all those types of things that really create that system. So the one variable that cannot be taught, how you react, is easier to manage, you know. And that's, I think, a lot of people jump straight to, not to take anything away from instructors that have been involved in real world stuff, you know, not to take away from them at all, but I think your average person looking for training defaults straight to that because they think that's what they can learn from them. This guy's been in a gunfight, he can teach me how to keep my shit together. No, he can teach you how to shoot very well, how to move, communicate, so on and so forth, but no one can really teach you how to handle that situation, I would assume, not that I've ever been, until you're in it. You know? That's not passable information.
There was a very notable instructor, very well respected, and I respect the shit out of him, to be quite honest, who did a rant recently about people coming back from overseas and how a lot of these instructors that haven't seen combat or don't understand combat are going to be SOL, you know, and kind of calling out a lot of the Instagram superstars. And while I agree with his premise of what he's trying to say, and I got a lot of DMs about this and talked to a lot of different people about this in the last 72 hours or so, 48 hours going into this. I said, you know, my only issue with it is you're not going to change it, okay? There's going to always be people who teach to the bottom of the pyramid. There's going to be always people who teach to the tip of the spear.
And it's a free market.
There's always going to be that. So my issue, not with the rant, is you're not going to change it. There's always going to be a bad used car salesman.
Right.
There's always going to be a shitty car dealership. There's always going to be a lousy financial services firm. There's always going to be, at the end of the day, what the industry has to get back to is you do you, we'll do us. Build your business, focus on that, and stop worrying about who's going to come back from overseas, who's going to do this, and this is going to change, and this is going to change the game. My hat is off, and I have the most respect for everybody out there, and I know you do too, and everybody does, and everybody who's doing their thing and preaching their philosophy. I think there's a lot of great instructors out there. I think there's a lot of great people out there trying to put some good knowledge out there.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're never going to stop somebody from pursuing their dream. It's like trying to legislate morality. And if somebody wants to pursue instructing and they've never been shot at once, you're not going to stop that. Right. They're going to get out there and they're going to instruct. Now, we can debate all day long, and it's a separate argument about what they should be teaching and what they should be instructing. And I think that's a little bit of what he speaks to, is the tactics and things like that. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it's going to be what it's going to be. There's always going to be a crappy shoe store.
Yeah, and I agree. But you also have to look at it, like I said, into splitting up those. And I'm not familiar with the rant, so I don't know if anyone was, this was directed at anybody.
No,
but you have to look at it all. You know, if let's just say law enforcement officer in his own time decides to go take training, well, that law enforcement officer is responsible for so many different responsibilities, everything from knowing the laws, knowing the codes, knowing how to communicate on the radio, knowing how to use their firearm, knowing how all of their systems integrate together, and how to handle situations. Well, if they go take a class from someone who is specifically a marksmanship or firearms instructor, they're there to learn that one skill. And even if they only walk away from that class with a couple little tricks, a couple little tips, a couple little, advancements, that's still more in their bag, but they can't expect to walk out of that class also knowing how to call radio codes or how to drive their car defensively. Everything has its own specific sort of, whatever word you want to come up with, subgenre or whatever it may be. And that's the thing, is what are you going to this class to learn, and what is that person capable of providing to you?
Of course.
This guy might not know how to, perform tactically with a squad of other riflemen or something along those lines, but if he can teach you to shoot your firearm better, Well, then when you're coming home at the end of the night and someone wants to mug you as you get out of your vehicle, if you put the round where it needs to go, you won. So what skills are you trying to attain, and what can that instructor or one of these instructors provide to you? People focus a lot on track record, and like I said, there's a lot to be said about the experience gained in a real world situation, but does that mean that every person who comes back from military experience is a good instructor? Not necessarily. Not to take anything away from them.
I don't think you are.
But it's just because you've had rounds, go past you, doesn't mean you're good at teaching. And I think that's probably something that most people just default to. This guy has been in the service, so I'm going to go see what he has to say. Might be a great instructor. Might not.
Yeah, I don't think that you are. And I don't think that, anybody's trying to take anything away from anybody. I'm just, I look at it more as analyzing the growth of the industry, and sometimes to a lot of people, they lose sight of the fact that this show and what I'm trying to do here isn't designed. This isn't a gunsmithing show. This isn't a show where I'm trying to.
We're not going to be building an AK today.
Yeah, where I'm trying to teach something. I'm trying to give people some insight into what got people to where they are today, and what shaped and what molded them, and give them some insight into their journey. And these are all SMEs that we have on the show. They're all subject matter experts, whether it's in women's self-defense, whether it's in fitness, whether it's in nutrition, whether it's in shooting, whether it's in tactics, whether it's in X, Y, or Z, or business. So the hope is that somebody from our industry can watch this show and say, geez, I gained a lot from watching these 4 or 5 episodes, and I can incorporate some of these lessons that I've learned into my business or into because what I think people lose sight of is everybody's trying to run a business at the end of the day. Everybody's trying to sell instructing. And it's funny, I had a very notable Delta one time look at me, and this is what he said. He said, I don't understand why it's so hard for people to realize sometimes we're all retired and everybody's trying to make money. And I feel like that's so refreshing to hear. And I just want to be like, you're right. And he said something to me so clearly. He's like, and this is coming from a Delta. He goes, we did a deal, and he said to me, he said, I got to do some of those modeling photos. It was so refreshing to hear him say it. Like, he just looked at it so clearly. And I'm not going to say the guy's name, but he's known. And he just looked at it so clearly. He's like, well, that's what it is. He goes, I have to take some photos, some staging. I got to do some modeling photos. Not everything can always be, as real as we want it to be. Not everything can always be.
You mean everything on Instagram isn't like in a battlefield? And
amen. And that's what people have to realize is there's supporting the industry, then there's supporting the industry. And I get the whole frustration of wanting everything to be real and wanting to have notable and real people in, but you also have to have people in and have an understanding that if the person doesn't stay in their lane, that's a different story. If the person doesn't stay in the space that they're supposed to stay in, that's a different story. You'll lose that argument with me every time because I agree people need to stay in their space.
Right.
And I'm here just to bring people to the table, and I've had people sometimes criticize guests or make a comment, and this happens across the industry, but you have to understand they all have their place. And believe me, when they're on this show, they understand their place in the universe. So it's exciting to see. It's going to be refreshing. I'm excited to see what comes out in SHOT Show and beyond and what we do beyond. I'll give you the last word on what you expect out of SHOT Show and what you want to see.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the technology stuff. That's the direction I'm really looking in. I got to see a lot of really interesting stuff last year at a couple of the different booths. Stopped by TNVC's booth, Steiner's booth, and saw some really interesting stuff there. That's what really piques my interests. So yeah, I'll be hunting up all the nerdy night vision and thermal stuff. That's my bag.
Yeah, no, you brought up a good point with the technology stuff because we hadn't touched on that, Rory. That wasn't a space we looked at.
The technology.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a space we spent a lot of time talking about, but that's always an exciting one. So it'll be fun to see what they do there. And night vision's kind of like the how do we put it? That's like the chocolate waterfall tower at the snack booth, the snack table at like the Glock party, like. You get excited when you see it, but it's got a lot of calories. So
this is true. This is true.
Calories being dollars.
Calories being dollars. So.
But surprisingly enough, it's becoming more and more prevalent in the civilian market. More and more,
It's
know,
it's getting
civilians
affordable. It's
are
not
owning night
affordable,
vision.
but it's
Yeah.
getting affordable. I mean, you know, you on a good night vision setup, you're going to drop 10 grand. You know, could you get something for 5 on a rifle? Sure. Is it going to be what you want? I hope so. You know.
Well, you know, it's everyone's got their hobbies, man. I mean, there's probably people out there that got 10 grand worth of Star Wars toys. You know, it all depends on what you like.
What tickles your fancy?
Whatever tickles your fancy. So I'm excited, and hopefully you'll be able to walk around the show a little bit and get to see some stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Get
I'm gonna go bug some people. That's for sure.
and get your feedback. We'll see if we can't corral Q or somebody in here or get somebody else on. I don't know who's laying around the office, but a couple people called out for Q, but I know he's buried in the office somewhere.
He's buried his face in some pizza, from what I heard.
No, he didn't have pizza. He had like pasta or something. I had a couple slices of that damn pizza.
Oh yeah.
But that was the death of me.
They messed up your pizza, didn't they?
They did. So we covered a lot. We covered so much. But, I just want to say before we do close out the show, Rory, it's been a lot of fun having everybody in the building support everything that we're trying to do. And I hope everybody understands the mission of what we're trying to accomplish and all these guests and having all these folks on and some of the goals that we laid out for when we started it and as we press into 2020 and having all these different subject matter experts on and getting these different insights. It's an hour-long show, and what we try to do is have so many different groups of guests on that everybody gets a snapshot and a taste of a genre they love, and hopefully a lot more people get provoked into getting out there and shooting and trying training and different types of training that maybe they didn't think that they would, and maybe they hadn't thought or considered doing. So hopefully that accomplishes that, and hopefully it's done that for a lot of people in the building. That's my thoughts. Yeah. So, Rory?
Yeah.
Anything to add?
No, I don't think so. It's just been a lot of fun, and we look forward to bringing, lots more exciting guests to 2020 and ramping up the show a little bit more. And we definitely would appreciate the likes and some subscribes and some shares for sure.
And head over to caveout.com. What sales do we have going on coming up?
We got the 12 Days of Christmas still going on right now. So I'd have to take a peek and see. But, we've had some good stuff the last couple of days. It's definitely worth picking up. I mean, if you're looking for some circle mags or any parts for your AK, we definitely got you covered with that, as among other things that we're just blowing out at the moment. So if you're not subscribed to our newsletter that we send out every week and our email blasts about all of our great deals, definitely hop over to the webpage and at least sign up for the newsletter so you can be aware of what great sales we got coming up. Because definitely after SHOT Show, I'm sure anything new that comes out, we'll definitely get our hands on it and be blowing it out at great prices, like always.
There'll be some good Arsenal products coming down the pike too. We're excited about, and we're kind of
very excited about.
We're kind of all jonesing on. So
super excited, yeah.
And the nice thing is too is although we do have some new products coming down the line, we do still have some products that were iconic for the time. We the 104 line, the 5.45 guns are discontinued. They're not coming back. We still have some of the 5.45 subguns available. Excuse me, not subguns, the SBRs available through KVAR. So get your hands on those while you can. Because once they're gone, they're gone. So
extinct.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where everyone wants a 5.45, and it's the iconic 74, but unfortunately it's going to be really, really a dried up market for a while. So if you can get them now is the time. It's always a buyer's market in this industry.
Of course. No, that's good advice. So head over to kvar.com if you haven't. Go check it out. And Rory gave good advice. Sign up for the newsletter. Yeah. And if you have any questions or you shoot any calls down here, Jeremy's who you'll get. So reach out to him and don't hesitate to
5.45s are gone. Quit asking.
They are? They're gone. So... Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always here to answer questions, and he does a great job in there, and he doesn't get out of there much, but it's nice to have him in the studio to kind of...
we get a lot of questions, but that's what we're here for. If we can get to you, we'll be more than happy to get you taken care of. Anything technical, give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to help you out.
Yeah, so we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hopefully we'll do a little bit of a New Year's thing. We'll get back in here. We'll do something for New Year's, but... I want to wish everyone a good holiday. Whatever you celebrate, my hat's off to you and your family, and enjoy the day and enjoy the week. Take some time, and hopefully we'll see everybody at SHOT Show. We'll be at the booth and walking around, and don't hesitate to come up and say hi to any one of us if you get out there.
Yeah, we definitely want to meet everybody and say hi and talk to everybody and hear what they think's cool that they've seen that we can go ahead and run ourselves over and take a look at as well. So,
Oh yeah.
you know, we're going to be on the hunt, like Jeremy said, for that technology. Be looking, seeing what's new and what's great. You know, that's what we're looking forward to. We're hoping to see some big things.
And I'm hoping between now and the first of the year to give people a little insight. Beyond some of the guests I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to get Rob Ninkovich to chime in because I'd like to get a little bit of a NFL minute done, you know, give some, because the playoffs are coming, so everybody gets excited about that, and that's just a passion for me. That's everything aside, you know, everybody loves sports, so I'm trying to get us a little update on the playoffs and how we see that shaking out, because that's going to be fun after the first of the year. I always used to remember watching the Super Bowl from the Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania with the crew freezing my ass off. If you've ever been to that show's a nightmare. So that's a 10-day show. It's brutal. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that, and that's going to be an exciting time. So spend some time with your family and watch the games and enjoy. And big thank you to all the sponsors and everyone who helped make the show great. So Q, I was going to say Q, but no, Q's locked away in the cubbyhole. But Rory,
eating pizza or something.
Yeah, he's eating pizza or something. Rory, take us out and shut down the pod bean.